Back in the home, like early home studio days for me, we would make them out of like a wire hanger and old pair of like pantyhose or whatever.
And that's still nicer than this, where it's just a big old wool sock over the top. Don't worry, I washed it with lavender.
Great. Yeah.
Scented.
I think it's
yummy.
I think it's working great.
Yeah.
Ryan, how you doing?
It's been a couple weeks.
Well, yeah, it's recording
couple months now. Yeah.
The holidays happened.
Yeah, we stopped in November. We had all of December and now January, and now we're into February.
Yeah, the holidays. I turned 40 in that time.
And I turned 39. I'm right on your heels, baby. Coming for you.
For those who are listening, it is Monday. We're recording on a Monday.
Yep.
And last Friday, Starcourt played a gig.
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
Oh, we have to.
We got to talk about my brush with death.
We played a gig up at a mountain ski resort in Idaho. You know, it's how long does it take to get up and down? It's like 30 minutes, right, from the bottom to the top of the mountain.
If you're driving
right in the
normally,
snow,
like I swear I was.
As we were.
I swear I was going sub 20, especially on that curve, because I had it in second gear, and Max was like, "No, this was a freak accident."
Everybody was being very careful
because I was very like.
So we were coming down
the mountain after the gig. Uh-huh. It's 9:30.
Right, so it's dark.
Yeah, it's dark.
Snowing really hard.
Since we got up to the top, it snowed 8 inches.
That's right. We had to like dig the cars out.
The guy who towed us out. So spoiler alert, but the guy who towed us out was up there and heard us playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Because he was digging people out.
Yeah.
$250 to get dug out from a parking spot.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay,
paid better than we were.
It snowed 8 inches, and then on the halfway down the mountain, it warmed up, and it had been slushing or like rain on top of freezing snow.
Uh-huh.
And so there was a layer of ice underneath slush, thin snow on top.
Right.
Not ideal conditions for driving down a mountain, and not ideal conditions for a 6,000-pound 1998 Toyota 4Runner. While goes really good going, is really hard to stop in those conditions.
Ryan and Max are in the 4Runner.
Yes.
AJ, the drummer, and I were in my Crosstrek behind them coming down the mountain.
All-wheel drive Crosstrek.
All-wheel drive Crosstrek.
I have a question.
Yeah.
On that corner, and you saw me starting to slide, and you put on your brakes, did your brakes make the sound of like the clunk, 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 clunk? Like the anti-lock brakes?
They did.
That's so my old 1998 4Runner doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Which is why I started sliding.
Right. And yeah, I mean, but we also...
So technology sometimes is important because there are people out there like... I mean, yes, this 4Runner has 320,000 miles on it.
Uh-huh.
There are many known examples in the world of them reaching 500,000 miles on them. I hope to get to at least 400,000 miles.
So we come around this corner.
It is.
I'm following you.
There's a dip. There's a small rise, and the corner is on the rise, and so the corner does not lean into the corner. It leans away from the corner.
Right.
So the second I tap, we come around the corner. There's a white truck half in and half out of the road on the other side of the road.
Stuck in the snow.
And I see the lines, and we're going slow enough that I have all these thoughts in my head, and I have a full conversation with myself. As I see this truck, I go, oh, shit. And then I see some heads bob on the other side of the truck.
Yeah, because they're out digging the car
out. They're out
out
digging in the front of the truck with nobody out, like, saying, hey, slow down. Oh, no, there's a truck. So any normal person would tap on the brake. I start sliding. My rear end comes around. And I'm going to get T-boned by this truck because I'm sliding into it.
Right.
Second thought I had was like, oh, I should just try and ditch the 4Runner in front of the truck so I don't hit that truck. But being a heavy truck, there was no time.
Yeah.
It was sliding, and I was actually picking up speed.
Right.
I'm in 4-wheel drive, so I go, okay, my next chance is to try and get around the truck and then to keep up speed so I can hit the corner just beyond the truck where there is a rail,
and
a guide rail, and a big snow berm in front of that rail. I don't floor it, but I accelerate just enough to straighten out. And I don't know if this tracks for what you saw. I straighten out and I get around the truck. And then my second mistake was, well, my first mistake was hitting the brakes at all. I should have just kept going around, right? Because that's what caused my rear end to come out the first time. So, and without anti-lock brakes, effed, right? Like, you're just screwed. Because those anti-lock brakes are what saved you.
Right.
Because it was gripping and it didn't allow you to slide and lose control. So then second mistake was I tapped the brakes again because I'm like, oh no, we're going around the corner. And then my front end hits just enough slush that it swings my truck around.
Yeah, you do a full 180.
I do a full 180 and go off the side of the road, the downhill side of the road, where for sure we're going to slide. And I remember telling Max, oh, this is it. Here we go.
Oh my God.
And hit a tree and then got wedged on a tree about 2 feet off the road.
Yeah.
Not very far off the road at all.
mean, yes, this episode is brought to you by trees. Literally.
One
tree on Schweitzer Mountain that saved
So
Max and Ryan.
we were going so slow though that like I had a gum package, a bag of gum. You know, you buy bulk bag of gum, and it was on like my shifting pocket thing, and it didn't even fall off.
Right.
And it was very precarious.
No, the whole thing happened really slow.
like nothing moved.
No.
Nothing in the car moved. Like nothing. It was just so slow. And I remember AJ saying like they had in Taco Bell at the end.
Yeah.
That like him and you had almost a full conversation.
We were
down.
watching from behind. We watch you swerve, like, because of course we see the truck seconds after you do and go, oh no, and watch you swerve to avoid it by inches, like swinging the rear end of your truck by inches, like avoiding hitting that truck, which was wild. And then as the 4Runner continued to kind of come around, we both were like, oh no, like they're not.
It's even worse.
They can't stop. And then it was like, oh no, they're going over.
We thought it was bad at first.
Yeah.
It's even worse now.
And it's just that feeling. I don't know about you, but there's always like there's a feeling when you're watching something like that happen, maybe even more so than when you're in the middle of it, where you're like, oh phew, they avoided the worst thing. And there's no possible way that the next thing is going to happen, you know. And then you're watching it unfold, and your brain won't accept that it's like, oh, we're watching them go over the cliff and hit the tree.
I would love if this were like a movie and we were stunt drivers. I would love to like recreate the exact conditions, and then if I just kept accelerating once I missed the truck, if I would have been able to like,
I'm sure you've replayed this
because
scenario
I could have
100
like
times. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that night, Friday night after I got, so spoiler alert, we're fine. Everything's fine.
Nobody's
okay.
hurt,
not a scratch.
Everybody got a Baja Blast at the Taco Bell at the bottom of the mountain while we figured out what to do.
Baja Blast, and we had a blast while doing it. Getting home, just replaying it in my head, it's like, I mean, if I just kept accelerating, kept straight, because that's where all the I think I jinxed it because I said in the text the week before, my car destroys snow, and was all prideful about my car. And going forward in a straight line, it does, because the 4-wheel drive is amazing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop very well. So that's why I'm like, if I just kept going,
right,
I could have just kept going, like, and just slowed down on the other end of it, right? But anyways,
well, it was very scary.
It was very scary because when we were pulling like an hour and a half later, once the tow truck, we finally got a hold of the tow truck guy.
Yeah,
we hitched a ride down to the Taco Bell. That was the only thing open and kind of warm, and you know, tons of people. People were so nice. It was so cool. Nice. They were like stopping for like I actually couldn't call people for help because so many people were stopping and saying if we were all right and all that sort of stuff.
Sandpoint, Idaho.
Yeah.
Good folks.
Good people up there. And we got to Taco Bell. We got the tow truck driver. He pulled us out in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So fast. And while we were sitting there, Like when we first arrived to the situation, the plows had gone in between the time we left. And
it was insane how clear the roads were when we went back up there.
Yeah, it was like oh, this is so annoying.
Yeah, it was.
And
was
they
so
plowed
annoying.
they plowed my truck in.
Oh yeah,
right.
Uh-huh.
And it was the same plow guy. We asked like, hey, maybe we could. We have a strap, and when we got down to after we hitched a ride down, there was that big tractor.
That
he was just like, nope.
He jumped in his plow and drove off so fast.
Yeah, he was like, can't do it. Nope.
It's like a cartoon.
Well, he doesn't want to be liable, and it's time on his word. I get it. Like I understand. I'd be in the same situation, but
can't help you. Gotta go.
When we pulled the truck out, my 4Runner. So not a truck, but an SUV. But all you technical people out there who are going to get in the comments. Mad. The tree was the only tree on probably 30 feet on either side.
Yep.
And it was literally the only thing saving us from tumbling head over.
Yeah, like, it would have
rolling
down the mountain.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like would have ended up on the road beyond below it, right? Because there was a switchback and yeah. It was a very sobering experience and a very big hurt to my ego because I got texted because we posted it on social media and stuff, and I got texted by one of my best friends up in Alaska, Jamin. Shout out Jamin Khan. The last time I was in the ditch was when I rolled my Pathfinder in high school. Or like right after high school, like the winter after high school or whatever. And me and him were, there was 5 feet of fresh snow. They had plowed this. It was a subdivision with no houses yet. So it was just empty roads and there weren't even like curbs. And they had plowed, but then it had snowed more on top of it. So there was like a foot of fresh snow.
Sure. Yeah.
And then there were these big snow berms and these big ditches. And you just get going so fast that you roll when you go off. Rolled it twice, but because there was so much snow, when I got upright, the only thing that had been broken was their 2 side mirrors.
Oh my God.
Everything else was fine. And the car was still running, everything else. And so that was the last time, like 25 years ago.
You had like a winter accident.
Yeah. Down here in Spokane, like I had my 98 Honda Accord, and I was pulling people out with that, right? Like, in a couple winters where there was like ice, and I would go to work and people would be stuck on this ice. So I'd get my toe strap out and just bonk, just like, just bonk them out pull them gently out. So like, I feel like my man card is like, is revoked.
Not at all. It was just really, really, one of those like, wow, we really witnessed a near.
I feel like I was doing almost everything right.
Uh-huh.
And it was just a perfect example of freak conditions can happen and you're not prepared for it.
No. Be careful on those mountain passes.
Yeah. It is a very big, like, maybe I will take a break from like driving people though, because like, having Max in the car and like thinking about his 3 girls and his wife and being like, oh, being responsible for that. Like that's a huge.
Now Max was supposed to drive and then his car had its all-wheel drive system act up like
it's just
2
like a
days
sensor
before.
Or something. Yeah.
Wild times. Well, thank you for joining us on
so that was the big
Scary Stories podcast
recently.
With Brian and Scotty. This is your dad's record collection.
Oh yeah, intro. We forgot how to do this. This is your dad's record collection where we just review random albums that we love from the 80s or don't love and end up loving them or end up hating them even more.
Yeah. This is our 80s album retrospective, and we break down records that are important for one reason or another, specifically from the 80s.
Yeah.
To make our, awkward transition even smoother here, we're not talking about snowy roads or car accidents today. Today, we're going to discuss a record from 1980.
Everybody's favorite band that they love. You either love them or you love to hate them.
This is the thing we're going to be talking about U2 today. Just there it is. We're going to throw it out there.
And the band U2, not not you, the listener.
That's right. You as well. No, the thing I was thinking about this week, because we're looking at their debut album, Boy.
Can I do a disclaimer real quick?
Yeah, go.
Okay, sorry. Disclaimer is that we were going to have Max on. He couldn't do it. We were going to have AJ on. He couldn't do it. We were each going to do different albums. And so I am slightly unprepared for this album. So this is all going to be... But fortunately, this is a band I know a lot about anyways. Have a lot of discussion points anyway. I did do some Mayan Ronson quick cramming last night by watching a couple docs. Me and ChatGPT got together for a while, and then I was like, nah.
Buddy.
I got into the history of like Ireland for a while, and thankfully that's something I know a lot about because we went 2 years ago, and I
been there.
Did a deep dive on Ireland history. Anyways, being said, we're probably going to be all over the place.
Great.
So.
But here,
it'll keep you involved by the randomness of where we go.
I just think it's interesting. Like, this is what I was thinking about listening to this album as we kind of landed on something to, that we were going to prep for in kind of switching things up.
Yeah.
When you're going to, and we'll have this come up again in this podcast series, but like, there are very few bands that you're going to look at like the beginning of their career starting here that go on to have we'll say baggage that U2 has when you talk about them now.
Yes.
Because even the records that we've covered so far, when you talk about your Huey Lewis or your The Police or whatever, there's like a legacy that comes out of those things. But the band itself is still pretty squarely in this decade and is like contained to this decade, right?
Sure.
So like you have like with The Police, we talked about Sting and the impact of like who Sting is, going forward in his career. U2 goes from, we're going to look at this debut, they become the biggest band in the world. When you talk to people about U2, everybody, like you said, has a U2 opinion because you can't avoid having a U2 opinion. Even if they're, like for me, U2 growing up was not one of like my bands. I'm doing air quotes right now.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. They were not a band that was like a really big deal in my household.
Yeah.
I didn't really come to, like I knew all of the hits.
Yeah.
I didn't come to actually like learning about and listening to U2 until later, till like high school, till like Beautiful Day and that, that era.
Yes.
And
Same here, actually. Yeah.
And then in college, the funny thing was I met a lot of people who were just huge U2 fans.
Same here. Yeah.
And it was suddenly like, this is such a big deal. And that was already at the point where they were kind of cooked. It was like the what was the album that had Vertigo on it, right?
I don't know, but I think
the
it's
iPod commercials.
It's How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb.
That's the one.
I think it came out in 2004.
So that's happening. And it's already, they've tipped over that edge, but you still, edge. Aha. People are still,
got him.
When they are this kind of fan. I was talking to my son who's turning 12 this week, and he's, he is going to be very happy that I'm mentioning him here on this podcast. Absolutely. But he gets very fixated on a band, and then he will deep dive on this band. But then he will not understand why everyone else is not also obsessed with this band, right? Yeah. So he went through a phase where that was Daft Punk. Yeah. He went through a phase where that was Gorillaz, which it helped with Gorillaz because he did it right around the time that their most recent album was coming out. So there was at least, it was relevant to conversation.
Yeah.
When Cracker Island was coming out. Right now it's Radiohead, has been for a while, which I'm all for. But he was trying to talk to me.
Max and I had a huge Radiohead conversation on the way back down.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you didn't record that one.
I didn't record that one. It wasn't as interesting. It was me just being like, but why? It was me just being like, I still don't get it. Explain more.
You can talk to Benson about it because he will be thrilled.
Maybe we'll have him on.
To talk about Radiohead. But he was asking me the other day. He was like, "Is Radiohead one of the biggest bands in the world?" And I was like, "Yes and no." I said they are probably the biggest niche band in the world. Like
niche?
they can go years without making music, put a record out, it'll do really, really well.
Yeah.
People will be excited about it. They could tour. Interest would be high. They could not play the Sphere in Vegas and sell it out for a week straight like U2 still can.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And that's the difference is that this band, I mean, you even talk about like the Beatles or somebody.
That was a perfect band to do that too at the Sphere because they were the first band to play at the Sphere, and it was.
And it's like, who else are you going to get?
Watching the videos from that is actually really amazing, and it's not a gimmick. And if you think it is, you need to check the videos out from it, because it is.
It's this thing, though, that you look at U2 as a band. It's hard to even see them as a band anymore, and not just like they became architects of a specific sound that influenced everything.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. Yeah.
So to go back, like the only way I think to cover a band like that without the baggage, in a way,
at the very beginning,
is to look at this as a singular object and kind of go, oh, U2, it's too bad they never went on to this little band to do anything, this little indie rock band from Ireland,
Yeah.
Because that's what this record sounds like.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like just a normal band.
And they're great. Yeah. Like there's an energy to it. I texted you this week listening to it. I was like, I think this might be my favorite U2 album, and like that might have been me being a little bit facetious, but like also the more I listen to it, I'm like, I forget how much I really like early U2.
Oh, it's the best U2 in my opinion.
It's before things get, I hate to use the adjective sleepy, but it gets a little sleepy later on,
Well, you said it best, and we're going to talk about the Edge more being a guitar player, but you said it best that this was before he became an engineer.
Yeah, he's the technician, right?
He's a guitar player first, and not an engineer second. And then around Joshua Tree, that switched, which needed. We'll talk about that later, but I don't know. Maybe we can say when they became like a corporate, like they became a force of nature unto
brand,
themselves, right? A brand unto themselves. They were a band first. My favorite album is War. So when we get we have a lot to talk about.
Great record.
Because that's when they found their true voice, and that's when I was like, oh, that's when I got hooked, was from listening to that record in college. Because, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb came out. Everybody was like super playing it at college and loved it.
I hated that Vertigo
song.
Hated it.
I went to the record store, and behind How to Dismantle Atomic Bomb was War.
Yeah.
And I picked that up instead, and I'm so glad I did, because that changed my life.
Absolutely.
I think that's their best album.
I think it's in the
when
I think
they,
you
they
could
become
in the
all,
conversation.
They become all political, and
They
have stuff to say, and we have some fun things to say about
boil
that.
Up. Yeah,
later,
and so
a little bit later.
Let me close this section just by saying I think there are very few bands that you can really like have this conversation about like this, because even like if we were a podcast about like music from the 60s, like even if you talk about the Beatles, they went from Ed Sullivan to Abbey Road in like 5.5 years, right? And then that's the end of the Beatles. Everybody goes on to have their solo careers and the legacy and all this stuff. That's the end of the Beatles.
Yeah.
U2 has been a band
since 78.
Correct.
So that's a great way to segue into their history. Actually in 76 is when Larry Mullen Jr., the drummer, put a note up in his school bulletin board for like, hey, anybody want to join a band? 6 people showed up besides him, so 7 in total. 2 of those were Bono and the Edge. Bono's real name is Paul Hewson, and I don't really know the Edge's real name. I haven't bothered with that. You can look that up.
I think he legally changed it.
Probably. Their first, also Adam Clayton Jr., the bass player, showed up because he wanted to be in a band, because people told him that he should go to this because he looked like he should be in a band. So he had not long hair. Where it's
David Evans, by the way.
Dave. We'll call him Dave.
Dave the Edge Evans.
The Edge is so much better than Dave. Hey, Dave. And the old joke is like, do people call him Mr. The Edge to like his face? Like, what do you call him?
I would.
I'd just say Dave and Paul and
Sir The Edge.
Yeah.
Being told you should be in a band because you look like you should be in a band is as legitimate a reason as any there ever was.
He had the huge glasses, the like frilly shirts, bleached white hair, a la the Police. But I think this was before the Police.
That was the punk thing at the time.
It was the punk thing. Everybody was like, yeah, you should be in our band, even though you don't know how to play any instrument.
Yeah, you just look cool.
Because you look cool, and it's street cred for him to be in our band. Like, and so the Edge taught him everything he knows, essentially. Let's see, their first name was going to be Feedback.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a pretty good name. That's not bad. And then the next time they changed it to The Height. Not as good as Feedback. I think Feedback's better.
Feedback's pretty good.
But then they changed it to U2. Okay. What do you think that one's better?
It is. You know what I mean?
It just is.
It's so totemic that it's like whether it's a good or a bad band name doesn't matter anymore.
That's true.
I mean, in the same way that
you
like
just know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. You could argue this with every, like, I think people talk about all the time, like, is the Beatles a good band name? It's like, who knows anymore? It doesn't matter,
Yeah, and well, it's stylized as beat.
Right.
B-E-A-T.
They thought that was clever,
The
And
Oneaters, the
that's
Wonders.
exactly it, yeah. But yes, I think it works.
It just clicked for me that like they probably were thinking as young kids at the time, like that would be a cool name because it's not just us, the band. We're trying to get a movement here, and we're trying to include you too, the audience.
Now,
you as well are in this band, and we're trying to create a movement of something.
Now, here's my question.
Do they know what that is at the time?
Yeah, right.
Or any time? Probably not.
No, just do you think there was an urban legend for a long time?
Okay.
This is one of those things I've heard it, but I've never been able to like confirm that this is the truth. But somebody said that like there was an urban legend that U2 was short for like use two, meaning use two condoms. Which is really funny.
I highly doubt that.
I do too.
Bono's they've all been in like monogamous relationships since like the early 80s.
Okay,
so
but
I highly doubt that.
You do have to, what's funny is this record though, which we'll talk more about some of the lyrical content.
Oh, sure.
Maybe one of the horniest records that
absolutely.
They steer away from this later.
Yeah.
But you can tell that they're just like angsty young boys.
Oh, absolutely.
Some young lads.
Which makes it good, I feel
Which
like.
apparently made it popular in gay clubs when it made its way to like the States.
Interesting.
Because of some of that content, like the gay population who was
I
underground
think
in clubs, they were like relating to it.
Yeah. No offense, but I think they're putting that into the music.
Oh, sure.
As opposed to just like
they're reading some of that
immature
into it.
Songwriting.
But it's still like
he was like they
it
weren't even
spoke to
20
something.
at the time, so yeah, and they weren't married or anything.
Spoke to something, but anyway, that's been an urban legend. I can find nothing to back that up. But
yeah, that's an urban legend, but
it's a funny one.
It's fun. I like it. So in 1978, in March, they won a talent show. And they got a chance to record at CBS Records in England. There's a cool documentary on YouTube where they interview the guy who recorded that and was talking to the interviewers. And he was like, that was really hard because they were the rhythm section in particular were very sloppy. So Larry Mullen couldn't do there's one of the songs, I forget what song it is, but where it just drops down and there's like 8 bars of just the bass drum, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't keep it in time, and he kept them there until like 4 a.m. in the morning, and like he even mentioned reading Bono's biography and how mad he was at me at the time. I agree, Bono. He's like
he knew.
I totally see it. I knew what was but at the time, it was the right, in retrospect, it was probably the right thing to do, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't get it.
Right.
Right. So anyways.
It's like hammer it until it's, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
and he alludes to making Larry cry, which when, they're 18, 19 years old, you kind of have to do. Well, he was 14 in 76, so he was 16 in 78. Wow. So,
wow.
Yeah, you're going to make a producer's being like, no, you dunce, do it again.
Fix it, yes.
Again and again. That was a 3 that ended up being 3 songs that got re-recorded in 78 again in August, and their EP was 3. They just called it 3, spelled out THREE. And that's when they got Paul McGuinness as their manager, who kept trying to get Island Records to sign them from the very beginning. First single that came out in 1980 was 11 O'Clock TikTok. It didn't make the album because it failed.
Right.
Did not chart. And then in July through September of 1980, they recorded at Windmill Lane with Steve Lillywhite.
Which he replaced Martin Hannett, who was the original producer that they'd worked with.
Okay.
That I think is the one you're alluding to, who, they didn't like his style of producing them.
Yeah, apparently he was pretty mean.
Yeah, but I mean, they wanted him because he had worked with like Joy Division and New Order and these, or would go on to do that. But like he was in that scene.
Yeah.
That they wanted to be a part of, that was influencing the music that they were making.
Yeah, because did we talk about Joy Division?
Not yet.
because they only really had one 80s. I really want to do Love Will Tear Us Apart. I can't remember if that's 80 or if it's like
such
79.
a good song.
But I do remember that Bono was trying to hang out with, I feel like...
Is that Ian?
Ian, yes.
Yes. Well, and that's
they hung out at the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of what happened with the replacement was that after Ian Curtis died in May of 1980, like that affected Hannock because he'd been really close to him.
Yeah.
And he like couldn't work. He was like so depressed that he couldn't work.
Yeah.
So it was a combination that like U2 did not enjoy recording 11 O'Clock TikTok with him.
Yeah.
And then he was so depressed that like, so they had to bring somebody else in.
Yeah.
And so it was, Island, I think the record company was the one that sent U2's stuff to Steve Lillywhite.
Okay.
And he wasn't convinced until he went to see him live and was kind of like,
yeah,
there's something here.
Yeah.
What's fun to like hear when you listen to the album is that it's kind of Steve Lillywhite teaching them how to be a studio band, like how to take this energy that they have on stage, but then like try to play in time, like be sloppy on the record. And so, like you hear him sort of molding them a little bit, into that. And like, you kind of wonder if his influence weren't present from the beginning, what they would have become.
Yeah, because I can totally tell on the album where like Adam is playing, and then when somebody else is playing, either it's Dave, the Edge, or somebody else,
right?
Steve. It's like, oh, there's a huge like one, a tone shift in the bass, and two, like it's actually good.
Right.
It's like,
well, and you can hear they talk about how they had to cut drum loops together sometimes because they'd need the sections of it that were actually like recorded close to in time.
Yep.
So that they could loop it, and then so that he could learn the drum parts from that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And practice.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, you take a band that is primarily like this energetic group of young lads.
Yeah.
And who you can hear like this distinctive kind of like Bono's from the beginning has this like sort of star power thing that like comes out of him vocally.
I was gonna talk about it,
but it's he's very raw.
He's a great example of he's not the best singer, but he is in full control of his voice and like of what the song is meant to do, and what he knows and like staying in his lane and going like, this is what it is, and it's going to be this, and it's perfect for what it is. And that's what everybody in all these documentaries I watched last night, that's what everybody is saying is like, they are U2. There's nobody like them. There's nothing you can compare them to. They have a singular voice. The Apple review or like the Apple blurb when you pull up the album is like, it's the sound of four musicians confused about where they are going, but supremely confident they'll get there.
Yeah, no, that's the perfect description.
So perfect. Yeah. I was like, that's a good one.
I think that's pretty smart because...
like, no matter what, just be confident.
Yeah, and there's kind of... I think that maybe is the other thing is that there's a sense of discovery as you kind of go through the record.
Yeah.
This still sounds like a band that's finding their voice, finding what it is that makes them, unique as a unit.
Yep.
But there's like joy found in like the discovery process.
Yeah.
And it's not the polished up machine that you hear,
and which I love
years later.
Yeah. I mean, I love the polished up machine way later. You have a lot of baggage with.
Yeah.
When I first heard How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, there was a lot of baggage there because it was coming from church people, Christian people being like, this is so amazing, and then trying to copy that for their church.
Completely. The sound of later U2 became the blueprint for like every like church worship guitar player. And the reason was because you could take 2 or 3 notes, run it through all of your effects, and make it work for what the song was.
Yeah.
So any guitarist could like figure that out. And again, that's what waters down the opinion of like, is the Edge a good guitar player? It's like, well, that's complicated.
Yeah.
Because, I think he is, obviously. There's this thing where it's like if you create a sound that's so distinctive that then every person copies it, but it's also so widely copied by people who don't really know how to play.
Yeah.
That becomes a really complicated thing. And then, years later when your album is downloaded onto everybody's Apple device without their permission.
Well, that was a Steve Jobs thing. That wasn't a YouTube.
It's just funny.
I will go. It is so funny, and the people's reaction to that thing is like, it's so blown out of proportion.
But it's so part of the baggage of this band's
and it's
mythology,
so part of the baggage.
right?
But that was a Steve Jobs thing. That wasn't a U2 thing. He just did that.
I just think it's
and
hilarious.
Then they were like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
What band wouldn't do that?
Yeah.
Right. Like a band that is known for technology, for being engineers, for being on the forefront of live show technology and lights and backdrops and projectors and all that. Why wouldn't you just be like, yeah, that sounds right up our lane? And then all these people will learn about us. Unfortunately, I think they picked like the worst album to do it with. But
oh man.
It was a terrible
It's so forgettable.
album, but yeah.
That's like the biggest thing. Like, what song was on that album?
The Song of Innocence.
There you go. I don't even know. I don't even know how that song goes.
Nobody knows. It was a weird album. It was more of like a very chill, like weird album. But anyways, going back to the beginning is that like, okay, the Edge is a guitar player.
Right.
And he is actually good.
Yeah.
For being 18 at the time, 16, right. 18, however old he was. Goose wants to talk into the microphone too, apparently. Kristen just came home. That's why he's like, well, now he wants under the blanket. Scotty, come on.
This dog is hilarious.
He knows what he wants, doesn't he?
Ready?
He's like, no, I want under there.
You want under.
He wants to be completely covered with his nose out. So I do want to kind of see, do we want to kind of go in October too or no? Have you listened to that at all?
Yeah. The thing I'll say about October is that it's very much a sophomore record.
I was going to say it's like the B-side to this album.
Yes.
So we could just talk about it now that it's a year later. They were touring. They didn't have like a whole lot of stuff.
But this is what happens to so many bands is you get the chance to make your first record. And like this record, they say they had like 40 songs that they were pulling stuff from, right? That they were playing live.
From Boy?
From their repertoire. Yeah, to make Boy.
Yeah.
So you pick kind of your best stuff and then you're on the road and then you've got to make a second album and it's not the same as having several years to write 40 songs that you can pick your best stuff from. So like Bono's going into the studio for October with half-finished lyrics. Like things aren't...
There is a beginning of the angst, though. There's a beginning of... I mean, both of these kind of have it of like... It is a conglomeration of like all these feelings and teenage feelings and songs for boys, becoming a man, a little bit of angst, being a little bit horny, as we've previously discussed. October, there's songs like he's starting to progress of I threw a brick through a window, of Gloria, that there's like something more here, right? That like we are trying to be philosophers at the same time as being rock stars. Right. There is something where we're shooting towards with the shout, Jerusalem, Stranger in a Strange Land, Tomorrow. So October then goes into War, and then War will be our separate.
But I do think what you can say about
podcast about War.
What you can say about October also is that you can hear Bono as a songwriter kind of going, I don't want to work like this again. I want to come in with things more like I've got things to say. I want to make sure I'm saying them the way that I want to say them. And you go from October feeling like kind of in some ways, a sort of muddy album and very, like I said, very much like a sophomore album to me. And then War is where things actually coalesce into like, this is what this band, wants to say, wants to do, and you kind of hear the blueprint. And I think that is another thing about Boy that is fascinating is like when you listen to Boy, the question is like, do you hear the future biggest band in the world? Like,
ooh.
And the question to me is like, there's the blueprint there. And I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Well, I will follow a little bit.
Sure. Like it's a great song, but when you listen to War, I would say yes.
Oh, absolutely.
The blueprint 100%. Is there, and like everything going forward as you get, further into their career where you start getting like songs like Pride on, Unforgettable Fire. And like, that's the blueprint is right there on War for all that stuff that's to come.
Yep.
Here you can hear the seeds, but like if you listen to this again as a singular object on its own, it's like, this is a great, energetic, like, listen, it's very cool. I like it. Like I'm saying, I love it.
Yeah.
Do I hear like the band that will go on to dominate like conversation, the sound of several genres, like influence people like crazy for decades to come, I kind of go, no, not yet.
Not yet.
You know?
In those documentaries, they were saying that it's kind of like a fairly standard new wave band.
Yeah.
And then you have Bono up front.
Right.
And he was the force of nature.
Totally.
And they were saying he has very Shakespearean, like, acting skills to these songs.
Interesting.
And like when you watch them live,
yeah,
you were drawn to them.
You're locked into what he's doing.
Yeah, what he was doing, and then with the band, it was just like it was a force of nature.
Talk a little bit about Steve Lillywhite.
Okay, I know nothing about him besides he's got a lily white ass.
As you eloquently said in a text back to me when I was like, oh, we got to talk about Steve Lillywhite.
We talk about Steve Lillywhite and his lily white ass.
Steve Lillywhite, he didn't start his career too long before this, really. Like I
don't think so.
I think the first record he produced was in 1977.
Okay.
But I mean, in his, like, you know, he became kind of like the new wave guy for a long time. He's working with like Susie and the Banshees and Simple Minds, and he goes on to do some work with like Talking Heads later, and he's worked with everybody. It's crazy. You know, we're talking like the Rolling Stones and Peter Gabriel, and later like Dave Matthews Band. And
I was hoping to go through an episode not mentioning them yet, but we can do that if you want.
Nope. Sorry. Not gonna.
Dang it.
Not gonna happen. Basic, like when he came into the industry, you know, his career trajectory was like he was a tape operator at Polygram, did some demo recording, like that kind of stuff, and then really
1977.
Started kind of building his career. You know, his first like big success was the debut single of Susie and the Banshees.
Okay. Yep.
And then he worked on like Peter Gabriel's like the solo stuff from, I think, the third, like he did the third record, the one that they call Melt.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's that record, of course, was a really big deal for both Peter Gabriel and for him artistically. He's kind of the one that on like that record, they sort of came up with what then became the gated reverb drum sound.
Gotcha.
Like that, you know, Phil Collins made most famous, but like he was sort of the architect of that sound. You know, Steve Lillywhite being, I think, somebody who goes on to have this wild career again, like through the 80s and 90s, like producing all of these big acts and records and stuff.
Okay.
It's interesting that he, in some ways, is the one that shapes how then U2, I think, like how they sound basically going forward, right?
Yeah. Like, let's just put an extra delay pedal on the Edge's pedal board.
Right. Or we're going to run it, you know, we're going to do the Memory Man through like two separate amps, right? We're going to run them simultaneously to get the stereo effect.
And all the original... Can you guess the amp that the Edge was using?
It was a Vox, right?
No, from like 80 to like 83.
Was it a JC 120?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Roland JC.
Uh-huh.
Jazz chorus, baby.
That was the only amp.
They could probably get in Dublin. That was pretty much it. Yeah.
But I mean, that was the
he went to
new wave
a Vox
and punk amp,
different
man.
and
JC 120, baby. Can't beat it.
Yeah, I was just like, classic.
Yep.
I need one.
Everybody, man. It's interesting to compare. I A-B'd this record just listening to Boy and one of my other favorite albums from this year, which is Sound Effects by The Jam. Okay. And it's just interesting. You can hear like The Jam is more mature at this point because they'd made a couple records before this. Like they, you know, had been around since like 72 basically is when they formed. Yeah. The sound of both of these records, they're just so of a piece of each other. You just hear this new wave, like coming out of the punk scene, but doing something different and more musically intricate, but using a lot of the same musical language, if that makes sense, you know? And that's interesting to me to kind of hear, like, you know, bands both from the UK, like similar influences, you know, but what they go on to do, obviously, like, is vastly different, you know? And I do think it's also fascinating to hear in some ways how much the Edge is playing on this record as far as like riffs and chords and Desolate Soul, because it almost seemed like by the time they get to Joshua Tree, the ethos is like simpler, less. You know, we're playing the simplest two-note things. Sure. You know, we're going to keep them as clean and simple as possible. And, you know, it makes sense that a band in early in their career is like, let me show you everything I know how to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Same. I did that. Yep.
Yeah.
I did that in my career.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about like the recording, at Windmill. Like,
okay, I didn't have time to dive into any of that, so I have no idea. Is it still there? That's my first question.
That's a good question too. Let's see. Windmill Lane Studios, it says, is a recording studio in Dublin. Opened in 78, relocated in 1990, and it's still there.
It's still operational? Cool. Good for them.
Been used by notable artists including the Rolling Stones, Cranberries, Simple Minds, Kate Bush, AC/DC, the Spice Girls, and many, many, many more.
Yep.
Still there.
That's cool.
But I guess they got in. It was a very traditional studio.
Okay.
Wood paneled rooms.
Yeah.
And the band didn't feel like that fit their sound. They said it was just kind of a bad vibe trying to record what they were doing in this very sort of sterile environment.
Sure.
And so that's why, Steve Lillywhite's idea was to go out into the reception area.
Oh, interesting.
Because they had like a stone-walled area with like a staircase.
Okay.
And to record the drums out there. And so apparently, like, they were hanging like microphones like from the ceiling at the top of the stairwell.
And it probably just felt cool, and
it probably just felt huge and echoey, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, the sound was probably reverby and big and huge. Yeah, but it also probably for vibe purposes felt like they were doing something
different,
new and different.
Yes.
And really, they weren't. They were just copying Led Zeppelin when they recorded in a house.
Yeah, or like, what was the famous Simon and Garfunkel song where they're recording in the stairwell, or like
stairwells have good reverb, dude.
Dropping the guitar amp to get the reverb tank to clash, or whatever. But it was that like I think felt like they were experimenting,
Sure.
And then things like, it's funny, they'd have to wait till the receptionist went home for the day from the studio. And they said even then the phone would still ring, so they'd have to wait for the phone to stop ringing and do a take, and sometimes
couldn't answer.
Phone would like interrupt the take, that kind of thing. More experimental approach helped the band come out of the like, there's always a feeling when you are doing your first like real studio, especially like with a label and everything, there's a lot of pressure to like go in and, you got to get it done on time and budget and all this stuff. And then if the working environment doesn't feel right, it's like, you start to kind of crack under that pressure. So having somebody that's willing to like push you to try new things while also, I don't know, teaching you how to like make a record in the studio.
While also making loops so that the drummer can play correctly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you sound like your band can play in time.
Yeah.
Producers
sometimes don't get enough credit. And maybe Steve Lillywhite is one where like he's having to manage all of that.
Sure. I mean, the career that he's had, I think he's pretty well recognized, but I think sometimes...
Well, this one was at the beginning
the early stuff,
career,
right.
So like...
And for shaping how a band then goes forward.
Yeah. That's crazy. Was Brian Eno the Joshua Tree?
No, I think that was Daniel Lanois, right?
Oh, okay. I don't know. We'll get there in later episodes, I'm sure, but...
Oh, both of them. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, Eno and Daniel Lanois.
Okay.
Of course. Two of the bigger, names who are creating that, like, very distinctive sound at the time. I'm excited to talk about Daniel Lanois at some point.
Oh, good.
Interesting producer.
I haven't actually heard of him. Or maybe I have. I
just
don't know.
Man, there's a documentary about him that U2 was in that I watched years ago that was talking about his production style, specifically on that album, on Joshua Tree. And then he does like a solo, just like pedal steel guitar piece. Unreal.
What does a producer even do?
I mean, that like is...
We talked about him, but for maybe people who aren't listening,
sure.
Maybe people who haven't ever worked with a producer, what does a producer actually do?
I think in an ideal situation, in some ways, it's funny, but like a really good producer is like the person that is able to take the band's like energy and songs and the sounds that they hear that they want to create and to make those things happen. Right? So like the best producers in some ways are the architects of like, if the band is like, we want to have like a string arrangement on this song, right?
Sure.
Then the producer is either going to write it, in the case of like George Martin with the Beatles, or hire somebody who can do that, and then get the musicians
also
in who can make
in charge of all the engineering and the engineering people. And
the old school version of that was you had older producers, right, that are sort of like stodgy, company men, right? They work for the label or for the studio.
Yeah, they work for the label, and they're just in charge of like hitting the record button.
Well, and managing these teenagers that come in making records.
Managing the budget and being an accountant.
Yeah. And like, okay, you do this, you do this. They really become more collaborators in that process, I think, when you get further into the 60s and the 70s, like especially like the George Martin Beatles relationship is really like...
he was really the fifth.
He was the one that helped to every wild idea they had, you know, he's crafting them and making them work and finding ways to make them work.
Yeah.
And I think that becomes, you know, like more what a producer's role is. And now what's interesting is you have the producers being like, you have the older musicians that go to the younger producers to basically say like, I want you to help me sort of like break out of my old habits and do new things, you know? And so, but I mean, you have these relationships with bands and producers that go on for years for reasons, you know, like Talking Heads worked with Brian Eno for quite a while, you know, because they drew something interesting out of each other. Yeah. You know, you have like, again, Radiohead coming up, but working with Nigel Godrich, who like, you know, suddenly this very like...
I asked Max who that was, and he like did a double take on me, and I was like, sorry, dude. I'm not in the Radiohead world.
Nigel Godrich being the one that every time Radiohead would hit a creative wall, he'd have some bizarre suggestion that would end up either making things like work or putting them in a situation where they had to kind of like figure out how to make it work, you know?
Yeah.
So producers, like, they have very practical jobs, but it's also this sort of intangible, like, they're going to also be responsible for how this record sounds, you know, like, and how it comes out and what the vibe is, how it feels, all of this stuff. You know, really good producers, I think, sometimes don't get enough credit for how an album turns out.
Yeah.
You know? And sometimes they get too much credit, honestly. Yeah. You know, if they're just there kind of going, no, I think that's a great idea. Go in there and do it. I'll push play, you know?
Yeah.
Well, friggin' Phil Spector's a psychopath, or, you know, so. But he also was big, brilliant ideas in that crazy violence-addled mind of his. But
so Steve Lillywhite specifically getting this out of managing soon to be very big egos in a space.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Interesting.
Molding and shaping
teenagers.
Yeah.
That's
interesting.
But you do think of these big bands that are like, you know, the band itself is this, you know, this entity, right? Mm-hmm. But like everything that surrounds making things happen for this band to function
is unseen.
Is a machine, right?
You see them on a billboard, but how did they get on that billboard?
Yeah, I mean, and so that's everybody from the tour manager, you know, that makes sure everybody gets where they're going on time, pays the bills when somebody destroys a hotel room or does something stupid, make sure that like they replace...
I haven't ever heard of U2 destroying a hotel room.
I don't think they did.
Yet.
You know, that's...
There's still time. There's still time for Bono to go alt-right. So let's knock on wood that never happens, but you never know.
What do you have any standout tracks from this record?
Yes.
What do you like? Because like I said, I listened through it.
Here we go.
It was very fresh to me. I had not listened through this album in a really long time, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, man, there's so many good cuts here.
Yeah, I do have a top three. Obviously, I Will Follow starts off the album with a banger. Twilight was one of my other ones, and then Out of Control.
Yeah, I love that one.
For me, and the Stories for Boys is like close in there.
Yeah.
Mainly for mostly, I keep wanting to call him Sting, but the Edge's guitar work. All three, most notably, are probably the most like quote U2 of this album, where there's like you can kind of see the formula. But those are mine. Yours?
I love I Will Follow.
Yeah.
I like that they're using, you know, you can hear these like little like percussive like bell type sounds on it, and apparently it was bottles like,
oh cool,
you know, and like they said they were running things along like spokes of bikes and just like trying to get sounds that were not like traditional musical studio sounds, you know,
which is a very rough, very first album musicians that want to be taken seriously to do.
Yeah, just do something weird, but like I think it fits.
Yeah.
I really like the transition, the like long kind of outro intro between, I'm going to butcher this Irish, but the Ancat Dub, that's the third track going into the Heart.
Okay.
It's such a cool, like, you know, just, I heard somebody describe this album as very much like, you know, it makes sense. There's a track called The Ocean because it feels very like waves kind of coming and going at different, you know, different ways.
Yeah.
So I really like that like transition. And I think the singles, like A Day Without Me is also like a cool track. But I think Out of Control is a super cool track.
Yeah. It's one of my favorites.
And you can really feel the teenage energy in that track very much,
very busy, but
yes.
like lots of cool lines though. Like,
and I was reading that people kind of were not saying something about how this being so early, like Bono's melodies are not as strong as they will be later. And you kind of go, well, yes, of course, because he's writing some of the biggest hits that will ever be written later.
Yeah.
I do think that these are really like melodically strong songs.
Sure. They had a really good grasp of like song structure, and
I just think there's some really cool like dynamics that happen, and like the interplay between the band. And of course, again, knowing that like some of this stuff is being shaped in the studio.
Yeah.
You can tell that there is sort of a push and pull between like a live band who is drawing attention because of their live performances and like crafting something that feels like it's made for, consumption in the studio.
And like I said earlier, you can really tell, I could tell as a bass player where you compensate for lack of skill with style.
Yeah, with creativity, right? Yeah.
And I don't know, creativity, it's a vibe. It's like you can't do this thing, so you do X instead, which turns into a vibe and a style all on its own.
I get what you're saying.
Does that kind of make sense? And so I can totally tell when Adam is doing that thing. The next track, it starts out and it's like a totally different bass player and it's produced and there's like a totally different tone and it's totally different. Like I can tell it's totally different fingers on those strings.
Sure.
I don't know whose they are. Probably the Edge.
Whose fingers are on the bass strings.
It's a new game. You just show pictures of fingers. I could probably win that game. Because like some of these bass players have like insane hands. Go look up pictures of Victor Wooten's hands and you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I think that's to tag on to that like production aspect of it. It's like, I can totally tell when it's produced and then when it's like, okay, just go.
Yeah, just
and
bam,
they play and you feel that energy in that live performance in the recording.
Yeah.
Which I really like. I think it's cool. I think that's something that we've kind of lost in this day and age where like it's so easy to produce something so high quality. And then I think, again, I'm going to call out Kip that I think something that his music does really well and something your last album did really well, Black Hole Dispatch. Go get it where all music is served.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the plug.
That you could feel the liveness of it and the musicality of it because it was performed. It wasn't, you quantized the drums, sure, but you can still feel that it's a live drummer. You can still feel that it's music actually being performed. And so
it's people making
something
music.
That we've lost is that performance aspect of music. And I think maybe that's past generations, their big like complaint with new music is that it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
And that maybe that's one of the reasons why. I don't know.
No, I'm with you 100%.
I'm shrugging my shoulders. You can't hear me, but
it's funny because I have a special place in my heart for people who can make things that sound like very clean and polished in a way that's like, I don't know, captures something, that's hard to do, right? But I also really like, it's you'll hear people say like perfectly in time is boring, perfectly in tune is boring, perfectly anything is boring, right? And your brain knows it's boring because if it stays that clean and that perfect for too long, your brain will tune out and stop paying attention because it's just background noise, you know? And so, the human aspect of that I think is very clear in all elements of this record and really the first few U2 albums. I think it's very clear,
Yeah.
That's, I think
the first three.
Yeah. Going back
and still have that in War.
And when you go back and listen to them, I think that's what I mean is like if you're so used to like what U2 sounds like a couple decades.
Yeah. It's hard.
And you go back and listen, it's like, oh yeah, like they started out as just a band, which is cool. Like it makes it cool. I think
not necessarily like a good one, but like at least
had something interesting
going on.
Energetic. And that's why, like I said, I think this record is really good. And I like it. I think it's cool.
That's cool. That's good.
Sometimes that's enough is to go back and listen to it and be like, yeah, this record's cool. Sometimes one of the things I love is when you have a band that has, again, all this baggage that goes forward, right? and maybe you haven't spent much time with stuff before that happened, and it's almost like kind of discovering like a band you've never heard before.
Yeah.
Because when you listen to it, it's so different from, what they become and what you think of them
what
as.
You think of it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's like, oh, actually, like, this stuff is great. I just had never, it's like when you see some filmmaker that you've maybe only seen their best and most polished films, and you go back and watch like their early work or student films or whatever, and you're like, wow, this stuff is really weird and interesting. You can kind of see like what may come out of it later, but at the same time, it's just raw ideas, which is cool, This album comes out late 1980. This is like October 1980. And it was like recorded for like over the summer, but it was a quick, like from recording to release was short. It was like July to like October.
Well, July to September they were recording it, and then 1 month.
Yeah,
into
it's out.
Yeah.
And so of course it charts mostly in 81.
Yeah.
That's kind of when it reaches its
peak.
Zenith. Yeah, exactly. They did tour for this album, and it was like their first concert tour of like Europe. Continental, like Europe and the US. And apparently that's like where I think people first started to see the potential in them as a live band.
Yeah.
People are like seeing them because of course the more time you spend on the road playing the same songs,
the better you get at them. Yeah.
At playing them. But I guess it was on that tour at a show in Portland, of all places.
Oh, interesting.
Bono loses a briefcase full of lyrics in progress for October. Which is why he goes into the studio with half-finished songs that he has to kind of like write on the fly.
Did somebody sell it on eBay
I don't know
yet?
if it ever popped up.
Wow.
It was lost backstage and at a club in Portland. And
classic Portland.
Portland, somebody stole it.
Man, that'd be crazy if it like resurfaces.
I just wonder, like, does somebody have that?
Just in an attic somewhere.
Do you know how valuable, like? It's just handwritten Bono, like,
it's
original
in the guy
lyrics.
From Portlandia who's like, this is the Beach Boys' mic.
That's right, yeah.
It's in his, like,
this is what
closet
they used to
somewhere.
Make pet sounds.
Yeah. It's in that guy's
he has it.
home studio, and it's, like, his prized possession. These are half-finished lyrics of Paul Bono Hewson.
So the record comes out in October in the UK.
Does their second album come out in October? Why is that named in October? Why is October such a theme in this band? But keep going.
So Boy does not come out in the U.S. until March 1981. And it reaches number 52 in the U.K. on the charts. In the U.S., it peaks at 63 on the Billboard 200. And so after U2 becomes more successful later, of course, people sort of rediscover this album, and they go back and it charts higher after that for a while.
Okay.
But of course in Ireland, they're a big deal, so it reaches 13. And funny enough, the highest place it reached was in Canada, number 12 in Canada. So 2 singles are released from this album, I Will Follow and A Day Without Me. I Will Follow peaks at number 20 on the Billboard Top Tracks on the rock charts in the US, and I guess it's mostly like a college hit, kind of an underground, like it's played on college radio. Yeah. Debut album from this Irish,
did pretty good.
Like, it's good.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Pretty good.
And it will then, of course, be rediscovered over the next couple years as, especially after War and Unforgettable Fire come out and they start blowing up.
Yeah, this album was released in October, Boy, and then October was also released in October.
Okay.
And then their second one was their third one, War, was also supposed to be released in October, but it got delayed.
I see.
And
broke the streak.
Got out in February. Yeah.
What if that was...
So there is a crazy theme of October.
Their thing was just every October they put out a record.
That'd be cool.
Every October it shows up on your iPhone, whether you want it or not.
It just downloads. Thanks, Steve Jobs.
I will never forget the meme that was somebody talking about, early 2000s where it's like Napster and LimeWire, and it's like the people going, please stop downloading music for free. And people are like, no. And they're like, a few years later, here, have this album for free. And everybody's like, no. You can't tell us what to do. Okay, so we've covered the charts of 80 I think before, because that was when we talked about Zenyatta Mondatta, or did we look at 81 for that?
I think it was 81 for that. Okay,
because it also came out late in 80, right? Zenyatta?
Yeah. Yep.
So yes, we looked at the charts already but we'll do a little refresher. Yes, we did look at this because we talked about how funny the top 4 were, which is REO Speedwagon is number 1. Then of course Double Fantasy,
and
John
this is
Lennon,
US, right?
Because he'd been shot.
Okay.
And then Kenny Rogers' Greatest Hits, and Christopher Cross.
It's so crazy.
Album.
It's so crazy. I said this before, but it's so crazy to have a greatest hits album in 1980.
I know.
Same thing with the Eagles. They have like a greatest hits album in like 78 or 79 or something. And it's just like whole lifetimes of music were released before we were even born.
Yeah, they've got enough greatest hits to put out, like basically volume 1. Okay, to round out the top 10, you got Pat Benatar, Crimes of Passion, Styx, Paradise Theater, AC/DC's Back in Black, which I threw out as a potential for this episode.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. Yeah.
Hall & Oates, Voices.
We should do.
What are the hits on Voices?
Is Voices the red one where they're looking at each other all like?
No, that's
okay.
Okay, hold on.
Nope, we gotta dig.
Zenyatta Mondatta ends the year at number 9 that year,
yes.
81, and then Bruce Springsteen's The River is number 10.
Okay, feel like that one should have been higher, but
well,
stiff competition that year.
That's the beginning of Springsteen's 80s climb, though. You know, where he's gonna just steadily like.
Interesting.
Because this is before he does Nebraska and then Born in the USA.
Yeah.
You know. Okay, we're looking up right now Hall & Oates because I want to know what are the hits on that album.
I do also want to dive into a little bit of the Irish history because to me it's important.
I want to hear it.
Okay.
I just have to show you this. The first picture that comes up is an old photo of Hall & Oates, but it's been like digitally
because they hate each other,
separated and ripped in half.
Maybe they don't hate each other, but their business lives.
One of them has a restraining order out against the other one, so
maybe they hate each other.
I don't think they're that fond of each other anymore.
That's too bad.
Okay, but we're looking at. God, they made a lot of records before this too. That's nuts.
Yeah, 70s.
Voices is 80. They'd made 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 records before that. Okay, we'll probably talk about this record at some point.
It's kind of prolific.
Yeah, Make Dreams Come True is on that one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin', which of course is a cover. But that was a big hit from that album.
You know, and you think about it with U2, Boy comes out in 80, October 81. They're on tour and stuff. And then War comes out in February of 83, but was supposed to come out in 82.
So they recorded it to do another year.
And so it's like 3 full-length albums a year, like one a year for 3 years. Like that's insane.
It is. And to climb to getting to, which will, there will be a whole episode dedicated to War in the future.
October's kind of included in this one.
Yeah.
It has Gloria. That's a great track. We're just going to kind of skip over.
Well, because October. You can, again, I feel like you can hear it as a stepping stone. Yeah. It's an in-between. It's a sophomore album. It really is.
It's just Boy Part 2. Yeah. And then War is, I'm really excited. Maybe I save my Irish stuff for that. Let's save it because a lot of his songs on that are like protest songs, are like punk rock, political songs that have to do with Irish history.
Well, because he definitely.
So I'm going to save it for that because it deserves, for me, and I'll say this then too, Ireland was essentially England's first colony. There's 300-400 years of oppression and like BS that has been happening. Again, I'm not a historian, but I think it's worth doing a Mayan Ronson paraphrasing.
I'm so ready.
Okay, cool. It's really, to me, it's really, really interesting, and that's all I have to say. So we'll
I'm
say
excited
that.
To hear it.
We've been going for.
This is a list put together of some of the top 10 worst hit songs of 81. We're going to look at 81 because we did 80 with Zenyatta, and we'll redo years a lot, but it was recent. But because these songs in the album charted mostly in 81. Number 10, they have listed Dan Fogelberg doing Same Old Lang Syne. There's a Barbra Streisand.
And that's the worst one?
Yeah, that was number 10 on the 10 list. Barbra Streisand has a song called A Woman in Love. Ooh, Endless Love by Diana Ross and Lionel Richie lands on this list, which I don't know. That's not a. I think people hate on some of Lionel Richie's music too much.
It can be really cheesy.
There's a lot of corn in there.
Yeah,
it's like creamed corn. It's so
it's like Midwest Nebraska corn husker corn.
Yes, that's right. This was the period of time where Barbra Streisand was working with Barry Gibb. So you have What Kind of Fool, Manhattan Transfer. Which was, very famous jazz like vocal group, had a hit with The Boy from New York City, which I grew up listening to that song. I never knew it was a bad song, I guess, but it's like a bunch of like looks like the drama masks you see, you know. But it's their faces. It's real creepy.
We can post that, send that to me, and we'll post it on
That's
Instagram.
really scary. Yeah. I don't like that at all.
Our Instagram is just going to be pictures of Goose.
And we should post the picture of you and Max with your crunched up truck.
Yes, with our mixtape.
Okay, ready for the top 3 here?
Top 3 worst or top 3
worst?
Worst. Okay.
Air Supply, the one that you love.
Haven't heard it, but not surprising.
Oh, okay, it's called Stars on 45. It's a medley.
Ugh.
It's already like a bad musical format to just do medleys of these songs, but it's like
medleys are really hard to pull off well.
Bunch of small songs crammed together over a disco beat. You know what? I need to go listen to this because I don't know that I've heard it, but they give the number 1 slot to Billy Squier, a song called The Stroke.
Can't imagine what that's about.
This description says, at the intersection of terrible 70s hard rock and terrible 80s hard rock, we have The Stroke, quite possibly the most insultingly hollow piece of Neanderthalic bombast the genre ever produced. That is an incredible description, and I'm going to listen to that on the way home because of that.
Just for the description, I'm here for it. Neanderthalic bombast.
That's going to be the name. I'm going to put together an 80s hard rock night and call it Neanderthalic bombast.
That's amazing. Okay, we mentioned it a couple times, but yes, I did record me and Max's conversation on the way up to Schweitzer. Had it out about the Beatles and Sting. It was good. Punches were flying, hot takes galore.
Surprisingly, that's not what caused the accident. This was on the way there.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys held it together even
just
in the
long
heated
enough
conversation.
to play the show. We're consummate professionals. We play the show, then get in the wreck.
God, AJ on the way down, he was like, "Man, that was almost a 10 out of 10 gig, man." It's
really?
Like the gig went well. Tips were pretty good. We got pizza, and then we almost made it. Incident free.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would want to say about Boy?
I mean, just the history of, we're saving it for war, and so I can't wait to get into it. Ireland is just a place that's near and dear to my heart. I've been there 3 times now, and every time it feels like home and a very special place with very special people. And
I've never been, miss. Where my
roots
are.
It lives up
family.
to the hype plus some. It is just so pleasant.
I need to go visit the motherland sometime.
Other than that, solid first album from a band that is going to live on in infamy, I feel like.
So then, and I feel like I've answered this question for me, but like usually question we ask is like, do you feel like listening to it today that it still holds up as like an album that's enjoyable to listen to as like a, just an album? Or does it just feel like it's a product of its time and, belongs there?
1 being it's a product of its time and 10 being it's still holds up. I'd be like on a 4.5.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like it's leaning more towards a product of its time. And that's just because it's their first outing. A lot of people said it and I agreed with it. And you can get me to agree with anything pretty much with enough like passion and like logical thought behind it. I agree that even listening to it, there's some really interesting things, but I do feel that it's just like an average new wave band.
Sure.
Like there isn't really until you get to War, and then that's where that album is of its time into. Does it still hold up? For me, that album holds up more than any of their albums, other albums. Never mind, I'll save it for the pod. Even though we're on the pod, I'll save it for then.
I do think for me, I'd probably rank it a little bit higher, but I think it's just because, again, it's like backwards through like the story of U2's career.
Yeah.
I told you that I watched Tenet for the first time this week.
Yeah.
And loved it.
Yeah.
When you get to like the halfway point of that movie and you realize it's about to fold in half and you're going to like watch the movie in reverse in a way.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like if you go backwards through their career, right? And it's almost like you unravel the baggage that comes specifically kind of, in my opinion, starting in like the late 90s, right?
Yeah.
To get back to the beginning and just like listen to it sort of untethered from all of that.
Sure.
I just think it's so enjoyable.
Yeah.
That for me, it is a record that like I think you could just put on. And it's funny because I think people, even like if they're not big U2 fans, right, that they're completionists, but they might know some of their like big hits.
Yeah.
People would be like, oh, who is this? This is cool.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's interesting to go, oh, this is U2's first album.
Yep.
And I think that there are some really like great songs. There's some great moments. I don't think it's like their most like you said. I don't think it's until you get to War that you really hear U2 emerge as a band, right? and make a statement that like will stand the test of time.
Yep.
But I do think like listening back through it, I was just so pleasantly surprised at how enjoyable it was from start to finish.
Yep.
I never got bored with it. I didn't get to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, how many more songs are on this that sound the same? Because there was like, every time I'd think, okay, I kind of get what they're doing, throw out something that was like kind of interesting for at least like in the limited palette that they were working with.
Sure.
And for me, discovering that kind of stuff, especially from a band like that, is always fun. I'm just like, this is cool.
That's cool.
Will my infatuation with it last? Like a few months from now, will I go throw it back on, and feel the same way? I don't know.
Yeah.
But like right now, I feel very warm to it just because it was fun to go, oh yeah, like boy, I forget about like how.
Oh boy.
How enjoyable it is.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
All right, cool. This has been an episode of Your Dad's Record Collection. When you hear this, we are on social medias right now, still just Instagram and Threads.
And we are at YDRC Podcast? Is that right?
Something like that, yeah.
Why don't I make sure I do it right so you can edit this part
out?
out?
Should we go on the Blue Sky? I feel like we should go on the Blue Sky. I don't want to go on Facebook so I feel like Blue Sky would be a good next one. If you have thoughts about it, contact us. By the time you hear this, we might be on. We might be on it.
No, we are on Instagram at Your Dad's Record Collection. You can find us there. We're gonna start posting stuff.
Yeah,
we haven't really, but we're going to.
Yeah, I want to start releasing episodes. I think we're 4 or 5 deep now.
Yeah, it's time.
If I get good audio, which I haven't looked at yet, from me and Max's recording, that'll be a special edition B-side bonus episode. Yeah.
But yes, follow us on the socials. Subscribe on whatever you listen to podcasts on, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, so you know when new episodes are coming out. Leave us a review, and go listen to Boy, like with no expectations of like,
it's good.
What a U2 record is. Just go put it on and enjoy it.
Yeah,
because it's like I said, it's just some teenage lads getting their feelings out, learning how to be a band, and it's pretty cool.